SLT Mobitel Fiber, the fiber of the nation. SLT Mobitel Fiber, the fiber of the nation.
Surf Excel Hygienic Clean කොරෝනා වෛරසය 99.9ක් විනාශ කරනවා. හොඳ වැඩවලට ඊට කොරෝනා වලට තිත.
Paradigm shift. The central bank governor says Sri Lanka must move beyond its begging days.
People think that the only solution is to go to some outside agency and do that on our bended knees. I think it's time for us to understand that there are ways in which we can do it ourselves, and that's nothing wrong with that.
Token justice. 26 Pakistani lynch mob suspects remanded for 15 days as the victims' remains are brought back home. Red herring. The government benches allege another game at play behind Samagi Janabalawege parliamentary boycott. Half done. The Colombo High Court releases 10 bond scam defendants from 11 of the 22 charges. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Monday, the 6th of December, 2021.
ඉසේ සම පෝෂණය කර ඉසුරු ඉවත් කරමින් නැවත ඇතිවීම වළකයි. Nava Clear Shampoo.
From Ada Derana, this is Ada Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening, welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammike Kanaka. An anti-terrorism court in Pakistan today remanded 26 prime suspects in the lynching of Sri Lankan apparel factory manager Priyantha Kumara. They will be held for 15 days before being produced before the Gurjanwala Anti-Terrorism Court on the 21st. Meanwhile, the remains of late Priyantha Kumara was also flown to the island today. It has been 3 days since a mob in Pakistan murdered and burnt Sri Lankan Priyantha Kumara, who was the manager of the Rajco apparel factory in the city of Sialkot. Since then, Pakistani authorities have taken swift measures to implement the law against the perpetrators of the heinous crime. So far, Pakistan security personnel have arrested 131 suspects pertaining to the incident. From among them, 13 have been identified as prime suspects, in addition to the 13 who were previously labelled chief suspects. This brings the number of main suspects in the case so far to 26. Yesterday, Pakistan media reported that 13 initial main suspects were produced before a criminal court and remanded until Monday. And today, all 26 of them were produced before the Gujranwala Anti-Terrorism Court. The Anti-Terrorism Court ordered that the suspects be remanded for 15 days. During the 15 days, the police will have the opportunity to interrogate and investigate the suspects, who are all under 25 years of age. The suspects are due to be produced before court once again on the 21st of December. In other developments, Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan announced today that Malik Adnan, a colleague of Priyantha Kumara, who had attempted to protect him from the angry mob on Friday, will be presented with an award. Taking to Twitter, PM Khan said, quote, "On behalf of the nation, I want to salute moral courage and bravery of Malik Adnan, who tried his utmost to shelter and save Priyantha Diyawardene from the vigilante mob in Sialkot, endangering his own life by physically trying to shield the victim. We will award him Tamgai Sujat." This is one of the highest awards that is bestowed on a civilian for acts of heroism and courage in the face of danger and gallantry in saving life. In the meantime, today the remains of Priyantha Kumara was flown to the island from Lahore. The remains arrived at the Bandar Naik International Airport in the evening and was handed over to his family. Diyawardenege Don Nandasiri Priyantha Kumara had to face such an unfortunate and senseless death for simply asking for the removal of posters of radical Islamist group Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan. The Pakistan government had lifted a ban on the group only last month and taken its leader, Saad Rizvi, off its terrorist list under pressure from massive public protests. In the meantime, Director General of the Institute of National Security Studies Sri Lanka, Professor Rohan Gunaratne, sees a link between the lynching of Priyantha Kumara in Pakistan and the resurgence of the Taliban.
Speaking on the sidelines of the 5th Indian Ocean Conference in Abu Dhabi yesterday, Professor Rohan Gunaratne, the Director General of the Institute of National Security Studies in Sri Lanka, has said, quote, "Since the return of the Taliban on the 15th of August, We are seeing that terrorist organizations have come into power in Afghanistan, which is once again emerging as the epicenter of terrorism, and Afghanistan may be a new Syria. He added that the lynching and burning of the Sri Lankan is a clear reflection of the spread of Salafi Wahhabism in the religion, and it's a cancerous ideology that has to be contained, isolated, and eliminated. On Saturday, India too gave an indication that it might not be happy with the decision made by the US to pull out from Afghanistan. While addressing the Indian Ocean Conference, India's Minister of External Affairs Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar noted that the move left the region grappling with concerns.
Two developments have significantly heightened uncertainties that Indian Ocean countries contemplate. One is the American withdrawal from Afghanistan. It leaves both the immediate and extended region grappling with serious concerns about terrorism, radicalism, instability, narco-trafficking, and governance practices. Given proximity and sociology, we are all affected one way or the other.
Litrogas Lanka Limited has introduced a new seal to their domestic LP gas cylinders, which are released to the market with new stocks. The move comes after the release of old stocks of LPG, which are shrouded in controversy, were ordered to be withheld from the market.
Last Friday, the State Minister of Consumer Protection suspended the distribution of liquefied petroleum gas into the market, as it emerged that the relevant companies had not maintained the standard of the ethyl mercaptan presence in LPG cylinders, which provides a distinct smell which helps in detecting a gas leak. This decision came at a time when two vessels with LPG on board for both Lavs and Litrogas Lanka Limited had neared the Colombo port. According to State Minister of Consumer Protection Lasantha Alagiyawanna, samples of those LPG stocks were obtained for testing at the laboratory of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation before the stocks were unloaded at the port, with the test reports proving that those stocks meet the relevant standards. The Consumer Affairs Authority decided to release domestic LP gas cylinders to the market from yesterday, with adherence to the new set of guidelines. As per the guidelines, previously imported consignments of LPG are prohibited from being released to the market. Further, ethyl mercaptan needs to be added to the new stocks to meet the stipulated level before they are released to the market. As per the subject minister, the two relevant companies distributed gas today in line with the guidelines put forth by the Consumer Affairs Authority. Meanwhile, Litrogas Lanka Limited has made a change to the polythene seal covering the regulator lip of the cylinder, making it easier to identify newly released LPG cylinders to the market. The seal features a red-coloured logo in the white polythene seal.
Following the controversial events on Saturday in Parliament, where Samagi Janabalawega MP Manusha Nanayakkara alleged threats of physical harm to him from government benches, today's proceedings were dominated by the subject, while all SJB members stayed away from proceedings. While some opposition parliamentarians condemned the incident and welcomed the appointment of a senior committee to probe the events, government members accused the SJB of putting on an elaborately orchestrated act targeting the international community. The government members also labelled as disappointing the failure of opposition members to condemn the SJB MP's verbal abuse and physical threats directed towards the Speaker during his speech that day.
දැන් අපේ නිශ්චිත ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. අද පාර්ලිමේන්තුව සමග ජනබලවේගයේ മന്ത്രിවරු කණ්ඩායම නියෝජනය කරන්නේ නැහැ. ඔවුන් නිශ්චිත වශයෙන් ඔබතුමාට ප්‍රශ්නයක් බාර දීලා තිබෙනවා. ඒ ප්‍රශ්නේ තමයි විපක්ෂයේ മന്ത്രിවරයෙක් වන මනෝජ නානක්කාර මන්ත්‍රීතුමා ඔහුට එල්ල වූ තර්ජනයක් පිළිබඳව පහර දීමට දරන ලද උත්සාහයක්. ඔහු පාර්ලිමේන්තුවෙන් පිටතට යන්න සැඟවි විවිධ උපක්‍රමශීලීව පහර දේවි කියන බයෙන් තමයි පිටතට යන්න සිදු වී තිබෙන්නේ. മന്ത്രിවරු කණ්ඩායම වුන්ට පහර දෙන්න උත්සාහ කරනවා නම් ඒ മന്ത്രിවරුන්ට සැඟවිලා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවෙන් ඉස්සර එලියට යන්න සිදු වී තිබෙනවා නම් පාර්ලිමේන්තු සභාගර්භයෙන් එලියට යන්න ඔබතුමාගේ දොරටුව පාවිච්චි කරන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා නම් තමන්ගේ වාහන වෙනුවට වෙන වාහනවල හැංගිලා යන්න සිද්ධ වෙලා තිබෙනවා නම් ඒකෙන් පෙන්නුම් කරන්නේ කුමක්? മന്ത്രിවරයෙකුට යම් ආරක්ෂාවක් නොමැති බව.
මනුෂ්‍ය නානායකාර මන්ත්‍රීතුමා කතා කරමින් සිට ඔබතුමා දෙසට ගමන් කළ බව අනුරදිසානායක මන්ත්‍රීතුමා කිව්වා. ඒක ඇති පටිගත වෙලා. ඒ ගැන සැකයක් නැහැ. ඇස් දෙකට හොඳට පෙනුණා සිදු වුණු දේ. පටිගත කිරීමෙන් යලි කල්පනා කරලා බලන්න පුළුවන්කම තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා කතානායකතුමාගේ අනසක මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ පීඨවේ යුතුයි. ඒ අනසක මතයි පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ගමන් කරන්න තියෙන්නේ. අපේ മന്ത്രിවරු හැමදෙනාටම
විරුද්ධ පක්ෂයේ සමග ජනබලවේගයේ മന്ത്രിවරු කියන්නේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ ආරක්ෂාව නැහැ. ඒ හින්දා සභාගර්භයට එන්න බෑ කියලා. හැබැයි අද උදේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ භෝජනාගාරයේ හැමෝම ඉන්නවා. එතකොට පාර්ලිමේන්තු භෝජනාගාරයේ ආරක්ෂාව තියෙන්නත් මේ සභාගර්භය ඇතුලේ ආරක්ෂාව නැති වෙන්නත් කොහොමද කතානායකතුමනි හේතුව වෙන්නේ? ඒ නිසා මේක ඉතා පැහැදිලි ජාත්‍යන්තර ආයතනයට පණිවිඩයක් යවන්න ඕනේ මේ විපක්ෂය මේක වර්ජනය කරනවා කියලා. මේ කට්ටියට මේ අයවැයට ඇවිල්ලා කියන්න දෙයක් නැහනේ. ඒ හින්දා මේ මෙතන මීඩියා ෂෝ එකකට තමයි මේ ක්‍රියා කරන්නේ.
Firstly, I'd like to associate completely with what the Honorable Anura Kumara Dissanayake stated today. I also wish to state the only difference is that I welcome your decision to appoint a senior committee to investigate what happened. But as he said, I think if you do not take it seriously and make sure that this committee does not just prolong and drag things out and not give a finding, the behavior of this house is going to get worse if it is at all possible. Abusive language is appalling, Honorable Speaker, from both sides of the house. Who's in the chair, if abusive language is used, that member must be named and thrown out. If we don't start there at least now, I think this house's reputation is going to go far worse and it is not going to be worth us coming here.
අපි දන්නවා අනුරිසානක මැතිතුමාගේ කතාවේදී කවදාක්වත් එතුමාට කවුරුත් මෙහි පහර දෙන්නවත් කවුරුත් කටයුතු කළේ නැහැ. ඔබතුමා ඇති වෙන්න කතා කරනවා ඔබතුමාගේ අපි අහගෙන ඉන්නවා අපිටත් පහර දෙනවා. කවදාකවත් ඔබතුමාට මුත් කියලා නැහැ. ඔබතුමාගේ ඇත්තටම කතාවේදී කතානායකතුමාටත් තර්ජනය කරපු ගැන කතා කරුවා නම් ඒක සාධාරණයි. ඔබතුමා හිටියේ නැද්ද මම දන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි මනුෂ්‍ය නායකකර මන්තුමාට වෙච්ච වෙලාවෙ හිටියද මම දන්නේ නැහැ. ඔබතුමා කිව්වා නම් කතානායකතුමාටත් බල්ලා කියලා ගහන්න එතන ගියේ එක වැරදි කියලා කිව්වා නම් ඔබ බොහොම සාධාරණ දේශපාලකෙක් හැටියට මම දකිනවා. එහෙම වුණේ නැහැ. ඒ ගැන අපි කනගාටු. ඉතින් අපි දැක්ක ඉතිහාසයේ වෙච්ච දේවල් කොහොමද පනත් හැදුවේ කොහොමද එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂය වෙනුවෙන් පෙනී හිටියේ අර්ලියගහ මන්දිරය ඇතුලේ හිටපු ඇටි ඉතින් අපි පුදුම වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අදත් සජව වෙනුවෙන් පෙනී හිටිනවා. සමහර විපක්ෂම කනගාටු වෙන ඇත්තරම. අපි පොන්නම්බල මැතිතුමා එතුමත් ප්‍රකාශ ගණනාවක් කෙරුවා. මං හැබැයි මතක් කරනවා ඔබතුමත් මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ බොරු කරලා තියෙනවා. දාද ඔබතුමා කතා කරන්නේ ජාත්‍යන්තරයට. පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ඉඩ දෙන්නේ නැහැ ගහනවා. ඔබතුමාට යුතුයකමක් තිබ්බා කියන්න කතානායකතුමාටත් එහෙම තාජිත කරනක වැරදි. කියලා ඔබතුමා කිව්වේ නැහැ. එක පැත්තක් විතරයි තමයි ඔබතුමාත් කතා කරන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔබතුමාලා මේ පාවිච්චි කරන්න හදන්නේ ජාත්‍යන්තරයට. මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ අද විපක්ෂයට ඉඩක් ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ කතා කරන්න. ආරක්ෂාවක් නැහැ. පහර දෙනවා. ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදය නැහැ. මේක තමයි කරන්නේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු යූනියන් එකට ලියන්න. මේක අලුත් දෙයක් නෙමෙයි සජබේල UMPA මේ ක්‍රමෙ අද ඊටත් වැඩිය මම දකින්නේ නිවාස අමාත්‍යාංශයේ විවාදය. සජිත්ගේ විපක්ෂ නායකතුමාගේ සම්පූර්ණ කරපු වංචාල ඔක්කොම අද එළි වෙනවා. ඒ නිසා ඊටාමත් උපක්‍රමශීලීව මනුෂ්‍ය නායකකාර නැමැති මන්ත්‍රීවරයා කරපු මේ ජරා වැඩේ ඒක වහලා ඔහුට ගහන්න ගියා කියලා ඒක යටපත් කළ වෙන දෙයක් පෙන්නලා එමි මාරු වෙච්ච එක තමයි කෙරුවේ.
We will see you shortly. Stay with us.
Big 3.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, one of the creators of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, Professor Sarah Gilbert, said today that there are additional changes observed in the Omicron variant that suggest it could evade vaccine or naturally induced immunity. Professor Gilbert also stressed on the importance of making sure countries do everything they can to slow the spread of the virus.
Speaking at a media briefing organised by the Health Promotion Bureau this afternoon, virologists made a clarion call urging the people to get vaccinated. They say that even though the virus is thought to be able to evade vaccine-induced immunity, no such evidence has surfaced.
Omicron කියන ප්‍රභේදයේ මේකේ විකෘතිතා 32ක් පමණ වාර්තා වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒතර ඩෙල්ටා ප්‍රභේදයේ 23යි වගේ, ආල්ෆා ප්‍රභේදයේ 8යි වගේ. දැනට මේකෙන් මරණ වාර්තා වෙලා නැහැ. මේ ඔමික්‍රෝන් කියන ප්‍රභේදය එන්නත් වලට ඔරොත්තු නොදෙනවයි කියලා පැහැදිලි සාක්ෂි දැනට නැහැ. පෙර කිව් විදිහට වළක්වීමේ ක්‍රම එකමයි. ඒ වගේම තමයි මේකේ රෝග ලක්ෂණ බොහෝ වෙලාවට එකමයි. වෙන රෝග ලක්ෂණ මතුවෙලා නැහැ.
However, one of the creators of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, Professor Sarah Gilbert, believes that there still could be a chance that the Omicron will evade vaccine protection.
The spike protein of this variant contains mutations already known to increase transmissibility of the virus. But there are additional changes that may mean antibodies induced by the vaccines or by infection with other variants may be less effective at preventing infection with Omicron. Until we know more, we should be cautious and take steps to slow down the spread of this new variant. Every time a new variant arises, vaccine developers have started work on a new version of the vaccine, and the same is true for Omicron. The work starts straight away, at risk, without waiting to find out if a change will be needed. But this may not be needed.
Meanwhile, virologist Dr. Jai Maha was quizzed as to whether this variant could be the last the world will see of COVID.
වෛරසයේ තියෙන තාක්කල්ම උන්ගේ විකෘතිතා ඇති වෙනවා. මේක අවසාන ප්‍රභේදය දැන් නෙමෙයි. ඉදිරියට ප්‍රභේද එන්න පුළුවන්.
In the meantime, with Christmas just around the corner, public movements in places such as shopping malls are increasing. As such, health authorities continue to warn the public that irrespective of the variant of the virus, adherence to health guidelines and social measures can prevent another wave.
We've been experiencing different variants from all right throughout from the beginning of the COVID, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, then now it's Omicron. Let that be any variant, the prime duty of the public is exactly maintaining all health measures, which is primarily important because any variant or any different sub-lineage affecting the country could be stopped by preventing three things: maintaining your social distancing, not entertaining group gatherings, properly wearing a mask, frequently sanitizing your hands or keep your hands clean. And this will prevent you from unnecessary exposure, any kind of variant or any kind of diseases. And with the success rate of the vaccination, we've emerged to a greater extent. So even in the Western world, even in developed countries, what they're practicing is this variant, the Omicron variant, can be managed through effective vaccination, can be managed through people getting themselves vaccinated and people getting themselves booster shot. One way of preventing the disease entering you and your loved ones while securing the society.
The Colombo High Court trial at bar today released former Minister of Finance Ravi Karunanayake and 9 other suspects from 11 charges filed against them in the central bank bond scam case. The Attorney General's Department filed 22 charges in total, and the defence argued that today's decision makes it impossible to pursue the remaining 11 charges as well.
The case filed against 10 defendants, including former Finance Minister Ravi Karunanayake, former Governor of the Central Bank Arjuna Mahendran, Perpetual Treasuries Limited and PTL owner Arjun Aloysius, its chairman Jeffrey Aloysius and CEO Kasun Palisena was taken up today before the Colombo High Court trial at bar. The defendants are accused of criminal breach of trust pertaining to the 15 billion rupees worth of bonds during the central bank's treasury bond auction held between the 29th and 31st of March in 2016. During the proceedings, the bench comprising of judges Amal Ranaraja, Namal Balale and Aditya Patabenege ordered the defendants to be released from 11 charges filed against them out of the 22 in total. During the last hearing, the legal team of the defendants had made preliminary objections, arguing that charges against the defendants cannot be pursued under the Public Properties Act. As such, they had requested the court to release all the suspects from all the charges. However, today, the bench gave the verdict on the preliminary objections, saying that 11 from 22 charges cannot be pursued. With the defendants released from 11 charges, Additional Solicitor General Priyantha Navana told the court that this is the first time in history that a case has been filed before the court over central bank bonds, and it is also an experiment. He also requested a date from the court to decide whether the charge sheet will be amended, withdrawn, or an alternative legal action will be taken. However, legal counsel representing former Finance Minister Ravi Karunanayake noted that the entire case is based on the first charge, and since the court has already decided to release the defendants from the said charge, the rest of the charges too cannot be pursued. The court deferred to the 26th of January to decide the further course of action pertaining to the case.
Welcome back. This is First at 9. Central Bank Governor Ajit Nimad Cabral said today that Sri Lanka's days of going on bended knee to international organizations for financial help must be brought to an end, and that the country must look to other avenues to have a more sustainable economy. Speaking at the Sri Lanka Economic Summit 2021 that began today and continues tomorrow as well, Governor Cabral added that plans are being put in place to encourage or ensure a soft landing for businesses once the government's 4.1 trillion rupee moratorium is finally lifted.
The two-day Sri Lanka Economic Summit 2021, organised by the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, kicked off today under the theme Springboard for Revival, Opportunity to Reset, aiming to bring together the country's brightest business and economic minds to chart Sri Lanka's path to sustainable recovery. The chief guest at the event was Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa, while Central Bank Governor Ajit Nimad Cabral delivered the keynote address. In his address, the Central Bank Governor stated that it is time for Sri Lanka to step up and grab hold of economic independence instead of what he termed going on bended knee for more debt.
People think that the only solution is to go to some outside agency and once again go and ask them for advice, go and ask them for support and do that on our bended knees. I think it's time for us to understand that there are ways in which we can do it ourselves. And that's nothing wrong with that. When you have a debt problem in your companies, what do? You will find ways and means of adjusting your debt. You will want to ensure that your average time to maturity is made higher. You would negotiate with the banks as well as your financial partners as to how you can reduce your interest rate. You would find whether you can adjust the mix of your debt. Now these are normal practices that you as businesses will do. The same thing the country must do. And that is exactly what Sri Lanka is doing now. And you could see that from the steps that we have taken, that we are now on that path to sustainability. We are changing our debt profile from only being borrowing to non-debt inflows. We are changing the scope of it by having government-to-government inflows other than just only borrowing from commercial markets.
Speaking on the government's moratorium program, the central bank governor revealed that it had cost the government a whopping 4.1 trillion rupees and added that it is currently drafting measures to ensure businesses have a soft landing once the moratoriums are lifted.
Then reviving of businesses. We have had a difficult time. We had to have moratoriums. A lot of people do not realize that the moratorium that was offered by the government, Honorable Finance Minister, was as much as 4,100 billion rupees. 4,100 billion rupees was pushed forward so that people don't have to pay that overnight. They were given space, they were given time because of COVID. Now when you lift the moratorium, you would find that there are certain other pressures that would build up. That is why we are now looking at having a soft landing so that those companies that have been enjoying the moratorium and the people who have enjoyed the moratorium can have a seamless passage to sustainability as we go on.
In conclusion, Governor Cabral also urged the business community to take a more optimistic view of the crisis.
Every crisis has a silver lining, and never waste a crisis. The crisis provides opportunities, and you are looking at revival, and in reviving, you can always revive better.
The Board of Investment says that President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has refused to accept the resignations of its chairman and board members. It was reported last week that they had tendered their resignation. In a communique, the BOI said that Secretary to the President, Dr. P.P. Jayasundara, wrote to the BOI chairman and the members of the board conveying the President's refusal to accept their resignation. Whilst noting that the President wished them to continue in their positions, the letter says that the head of state had also given a vote of confidence to the incumbents. Now, taking a look at the Colombo Bourse, the CSE All-Share Price Index rose 0.42% to close at 11,034.41 points after tumbling 2.35% on Friday as sentiment took a hit after the discovery of the first Omicron variant case in the country. The S&P SL20 meanwhile also recovered I should say, by 1.61% to close at 3,947 points. Turnover for the day was recorded at 6.7 billion rupees. Now with that, here's Dimantha Mathi with a brief report on today's market performance.
Today we are seeing the market ending in positive territory, 46 points up during the day, again crossing the 11,000 mark to close at 11,034 points during the day. So overall what we are seeing is there seems to be a bit of uncertainty among the investors. A couple of illiquid counters in the diversified sector that has been having a lot of profit taking and a massive correction after the initial spike in those counters is having a major impact on the index itself as it loses its market cap on its way down. However, the transportation sector gains is basically covering up the overall negativeness that is there in the market, especially in the diversified financial sector counters. So in terms of turnover, we are seeing 6.7 billion of turnover, and bulk of it coming from the diversified financial sector.
Meanwhile, in the currency market, the Sri Lankan rupee continued its run at 202.99 cents against the US dollar today as well. Now let's take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee fared against other major currencies during the day. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.